Hello, time travelers. It is I, Time Travel Gamer here with Time Travel Gaming, and today I'm gonna put out a video, or I'm making a video that's very different than what I usually do. We're not really doing anything gaming right now. I don't even know if anyone's gonna watch this or anyone cares to watch this. So I guess this is kind of more of like a personal entry or like a virtual diary entry of some sorts. I don't know how to put it. But yesterday, March 8th, 2024, it came out that mangaka, the creator of Dragon Ball, Akira Toriyama, passed away. And that hit me a little hard. And I'm not the type of person to really feel some type of way strongly when a celebrity passes. The only time that it actually hit hard in relation to a time like this is when Stan Lee passed away, because he, like Akira Toriyama, inspired me to do what I do today. As a lot of you may or may not know, I am a comic book illustrator. I grew up on Marvel Comics since 2005 when I was 5 years old and whatnot. That was always my thing. But when I first really got into drawing, a lot of it, no, let's say when I first actually started trying to do my own type, because everyone knows how little kids are when it comes to drawing: circle for a head, rectangle body, rectangles for arms, and circles for hands and feet. You know, just something like that. That's what I did. Um, when when I was in when I was 6 or 7 years old, I saw Dragon Ball Z for the first time. I remember that night Toonami was on. It was the fight between Goku and Cell. I think there were like maybe 3 fights in, or 3 episodes into that fight during the Cell game saga. And I was captivated. I loved it, man. This was not my first anime, but it's the first anime that really made me like anime. My first anime that I have ever seen was Devilman. Um, which, in hindsight, I say this every time, I definitely should not have been watching that. My uncle had it on tape, and I watched it. It was the first part of Devilman when he first, met up with Rio again and all that. But that's neither here nor there. Um, I remember that month of Toonami, all of that fighting going on up until Gohan goes Super Saiyan 2, the Gohan Explodes episode, and then that really got me excited. I loved it. But then Toonami pulled a thing they like to do a lot when they get to like a part of a anime, specifically Dragon Ball Z and Naruto, where they would just leave it as a cliffhanger. Now, Dragon Ball Z was well done over the years, by the way, so they could have easily just continued playing it, but they went back to the Frieza saga, right when Goku first came out of the time chamber after fighting Captain Ginyu and stuff. And I'm like, whoa, because I still thought this was cool. So, a month after seeing Super Saiyan 2 as the first transformation or major transformation I've seen, that seems awesome. I get to see the Super Saiyan 1 transformation and the Frieza fight for the first time too. And that is really what got me hooked on it. Cause I guess you could say Dragon Ball Z was a gateway anime for me, like it might have also been for a bunch of other people. Because of wanting to watch Dragon Ball Z, I'd sit up and just watch Toonami straight up. That's when I discovered Naruto, Inuyasha. One Piece was on, but I never really got into One Piece as a kid. Um, they had some Gundam stuff, but Dragon Ball Z hit heavy when I watched it as a kid. So after that, when I started drawing, a lot of my art was heavily inspired by that. Um, I would never draw like spiky hair or anything until I saw Dragon Ball Z. Like seriously. Um, and then when I got to middle school and really started to develop more into art, you could really tell. I'm gonna try to find some pictures to add into the video. But some of them you can easily tell, like they will have blasts coming out of the hands, the spiked hair, literally the baggy pants that they would have in Dragon Ball Z, like the gi, that like the turtle hermit gi and whatnot type of pants. Like you can easily tell where I got that from, and I loved it, man. Ever since then, Dragon Ball Z was the only anime that I really cared about for a very long time. I remember going on a binge of all the movies later in life. Cause I know they have the Garlic Jr. saga and stuff on Toonami, but I never seen all of them. I remember YouTube used to have every movie. Obviously not originally uploaded, but by Toonami or Funimation, but they had every movie, and I would watch them back to back for a long time. And this is at a time where we didn't have Wi-Fi or internet at my house, so I would download these movies onto my phone, and I would watch them when I get home off of YouTube and stuff. And I would download them off of YouTube and onto my phone and watch them all when I got home. I did the same thing for Dragon Ball Z Abridged. I would find the the videos that compiled the entirety of certain seasons, and then I'll just have like 1 hour, 2 hour, 3 hours of Dragon Ball Z Abridged seasons 1 through 3 and whatnot. I was there for that whole run. I remember that. But I have gone on a tangent. But yeah, Dragon Ball Z inspired a lot. My first comic book that I ever wrote myself, a character that I hold dear, is called Mighty Warrior. He literally has a beam called the Dark Bomb, which is a technique where he basically just absorb a bunch of dark energy and then hurls it at his opponent like a spirit bomb. Clearly you know where that's from. And I loved it. My love for Dragon Ball Z really increased as I got older, because I always just knew it was super cool, and I love the characters. Goku was always a high favorite of mine by default, I guess the same could be said for many. And yeah, after a while I got more understanding of it, and I really grasped the concept of just what Dragon Ball Z really was after seeing a bunch of other people's experiences. I've had the same people who would rag on you for watching Pokemon or Yu-Gi-Oh! Be the same people that would swear up and down that Dragon Ball Z doesn't count as quote-unquote that anime shit, which is hilarious. As growing up in the black community where watching anime is something that would get you teased a lot back in the day, that show, a lot of the same people, like I said, who made fun of the other things, love Dragon Ball Z. That was just a show. Hood niggas love Dragon Ball Z. But you know who loves Dragon Ball Z the most? As worldwide and legendary as Dragon Ball is as a franchise in Asia and America, the Hispanic and Latin community, they love Dragon Ball Z. And I can only imagine how they're feeling right now, because they probably have the biggest Dragon Ball community slash fan base that I've ever seen. Rightfully so too. Like, who doesn't? And I grew up a lot not really having too much memorabilia. I remember the first Dragon Ball game I've ever played was Dragon Ball. It was the Legacy of Goku 2. I had it on Game Boy from a friend. I let him borrow another game of mine. And my mother was like, if you're gonna borrow one of his games, let him borrow one of yours and whatnot. And so I don't know what game he wanted to borrow. It might have been Tekken or Power Juju. I had that on Game Boy. I think that might have been the game that he wanted to play. But the game that he let me borrow was the Legacy of Goku 2. And I played that game for hours non-stop. And I loved it. I loved it so much to the point that I was high key hoping that the kid never came back. Like, I was hoping that maybe even if he does come back, he won't come back tonight, and I can at least play this well until like maybe he'll get it after school tomorrow, so I'll still have some more time to enjoy it. I loved that game so much, and when he came and got it, I was distraught. Like, I was hurt, you know? And low key thinking about it, if I would have said, yo, we can trade games if you want, there might have been a slight chance that I could have kept it. But I didn't think to do that or anything. And after that, the first Dragon Ball Z game I've ever had on consoles was Dragon Ball Z Budokai 3. I got that for PlayStation 2, or maybe like 2 years after it came out. And at this point, there's still a lot of Dragon Ball Z stuff I haven't seen. GT was still a series that I've never seen before. But in the game, there was Super Saiyan 4, Sin Shenron, Omega Shenron, Gogeta, Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta and stuff. And it was the coolest thing I've ever seen in my life, man. I love that design. Now, I'll rack up and down on Dragon Ball GT to this day. But if someone ever said, yo, let's sit down and watch Dragon Ball GT, I'd watch it with them. And that's simply because GT still has a lot of cool moments. It also has a lot of things that make you bored. But Super Saiyan 4, the Omega Sin Shenron arc was good stuff, man. I even seen the movie that came after GT later on with Goku Jr., the grandson of or yeah, the grandson of Goku. And that was pretty cool, man. He had like the red headband like Bardock, but yeah, it was cool. I liked that a lot, to be honest. But yeah, the games are really what really brought me in, because I learned a lot from playing the games before I did the movies or the TV shows. I haven't rewatched Dragon Ball Z in a long time. The last time I did was maybe in 2017, 2018, where I did a full watch of it and whatnot. And I enjoy it. I can sit down and watch Dragon Ball Z all the time over and over, if I wanted to or had the time to be honest. Yeah, then later on, I got into Tenkaichi. A friend of mine had Dragon Ball Z Tenkaichi, and we played that game all night. We played the hell out of that game. Then later on, I got Tenkaichi 2, and the jump from playing 3D slash 2D fighter Dragon Ball Z games to Tenkaichi 2 was the most mind-blowing thing to me. And I had so much fun on that game, trying to unlock everything, seeing all the secrets the game had to offer, the powers, and leveling up certain things so you can have this one character that is godlike. My Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta was insane. Vegito and stuff, man. I loved it. I loved it so much. Tenkaichi 2 was peak. I didn't have Tenkaichi 3 growing up. I only got that game about a year and a half ago. For cheap, by the way. It was at a yard sale. and he had a few copies of games that he was just giving away for like $15 altogether. And Tenkaichi 3 was there. Best believe I took advantage for the PS2, by the way. I got that. Um, and I loved it, man. Now I have played Tenkaichi 3. Don't get me wrong. I've played it a lot at a friend's house, but I've never owned it myself. Um, you know, I have a bunch of action figures and stuff from growing up. A lot of them not in good shape, but I still have a few. My Dragon Ball hoodies. I have partially the orange box set for the remastered uncut DVD series. I'm missing like 4 seasons though. I've read all the manga. It's not the first manga that I've read, but it's one of the early ones that I've read all the way through. My first ever manga was Death Note, by the way. But, you know, the only reason I ever would want to do that is because of Dragon Ball Z. And, you know, the reason why I would say this hits as hard as Stan Lee's passing is because these two inspire me to do what I want to do, which I've already said, but I'll reiterate again, because I wouldn't have advanced as much in my art if it wasn't for what Akira Toriyama has done. You know, the spiky hair, you'll see that in a lot of my art. I love it. A lot of anime that I watch, like shonen, are definitely my favorite because there's clear inspiration in a lot of them. Dragon Ball Z did not create transformations, but he definitely is, when you think of transformations in anime, Super Saiyan, you know, stuff like that, that's easily what comes to mind, you know? At least early memories for a lot of people, especially my generation. You know, Dragon Ball Z inspired Final Fantasy. Like, I mean, look at Cloud, man. You can't tell me that his hair isn't a Super Saiyan inspired hairstyle. Let's be for real. Now, Final Fantasy, I didn't get into Final Fantasy because of Dragon Ball Z. That is a whole nother can of things right there. But you can see that Dragon Ball Z has spilled over into a lot of things. Naruto and Sasuke. Sasuke with the red and white fit. Naruto with the orange and blue. You know, Miriam from Hunter x Hunter. The ant dude clearly is Cell inspired. Miriam, I mean, sorry about that. Hell, man, Gear 1 through 4 and all that, the gear transformations, and seeing a lot of other mangaka, Oda Ishida and Masashi Kishimoto. Ishida made One Piece, and Kishimoto, of course, made Naruto. They gave their words and whatnot, and, you know, they say how heavily inspired they are, and how they were able to take their inspiration and make really great series themselves that I'm sure inspired a lot of other people through them. Now, I'm not saying Dragon Ball Z is the blueprint for everything. Akira Toriyama isn't the reason why a lot of things are as they are, but it's in a status that you can definitely say, oh yeah, Dragon Ball Z is the reason why this is, you know, whether you want to or not, or whether you're one of those people that just choose to feign ignorance on that, that's on you. I mean, Dragon Ball Z has transcended Japanese culture to the point where a Dragon Ball Z reference can be in anything, and it's just so cookie cutter at this point, and not in a bad way, that you'll be like, Dragon Ball Z reference, and it's just so natural. And, you know, I remember as a kid thinking, after watching Gohan teach Videl to control Ki and how to fly, that I can do the same shit. I mean, what kid did it, man? Like, I would, in middle school, messing around with my friends, just sitting there silently screaming, trying to transform and all that and stuff, believing if you tried hard enough, you can do a Kamehameha. Hell, I still to this day, in some of my videos, I'll be like, all right, guys, lend me your energy if things get hard. Like, that's what, lend me your energy. The spirit bomb thing, that is all from that, man. And there's an appreciation that you have to give to Dragon Ball Z. These days, there's not too much Dragon Ball Z stuff that I'm really heavily into. As far as like the series goes, I didn't really catch up on Super, but I know of every major moment because every major moment you have seen up to this point. Everyone knows about Ultra Instinct and Jiren, and everyone knows about Beerus and all that. Even if you haven't watched Dragon Ball in a long time, there's some things that you do know. And I oh man, hold on, give me a second. I used to want to make like Dragon Ball Z stuff, Like, I wanted to be a Dragon Ball Z artist, but that wouldn't work in what I want to do. Now, don't get me wrong, I can draw some Dragon Ball Z stuff like it's nothing. But, I look at people like Toyotoro, the guy who literally looked up to Akira Toriyama, wanted to be his whole flow and style, everything that he does, heavily inspired by Akira Toriyama. It is Dragon Ball, that's his thing. And he put out a tweet basically saying that he spent his whole life wanting to be acknowledged by Akira Toriyama, and that he is very heartbroken by his passing. And he is someone who followed his dreams so heavily that he was able to work with Akira Toriyama. He draws all the super artwork. He works with him. And I can only imagine what it's like, because now your mentor is gone. And no matter how amazing his art style is and all this stuff, he now carries the burden of having to continue that legacy on, which he's probably not going to do alone. It's not just a one-man show when it comes to making manga and stuff, but he is the person who's going to really have to step up. And I believe he can do it. And I hope that he's okay, and if not, I hope that he recovers, and maybe one day when he passes, people will think the same about him as Toyotoro was the one who drew all the manga that I read, new generation of manga readers and whatnot. But yeah, this is the type of thing that will kind of make the earth stand still, because for a lot of kids, especially a lot of people in my generation, and for black people, I will say that for black people like me, Dragon Ball Z really was just that thing. Like, I remember being a kid, and there would be like high schoolers and middle schoolers after school who would be talking about the last episode of Dragon Ball Z that they saw on Toonami. Middle schoolers bringing action figures and Dragon Ball Z toys and stuff to school. People just drawing like their own Dragon Ball Z type characters and doing all this. What if this character had infinite power fighting this character and stuff? People will get into heated debates over this. And these will be the same people that will have these debated arguments, memorabilia, and just a strong place in the heart for Dragon Ball Z will be the same people that if you look at them wrong, they will not be afraid to engage in the most meaningless violence ever. It's kind of funny that. And that's how Dragon Ball Z kind of brought people together. I'm going to be honest with you. it was a middle ground. It was a neutral zone, a safe spot in all things considered, you know? I just recently um I found my first ever copy of Dragon Ball Z. I have the first issue, and I was reading it just for fun, and I've had that since like 2010. Um, and I love it. Like if I wanted to, I can sit down and read through the whole manga series again. And I would be lying if I say Dragon Ball Z didn't put me where I am today, 'cause it did. Nothing I draw these days are clearly like it's not heavily inspired, but the things that I want to do as a Western artist, I will happily implement. Excuse me. As I was saying, I will happily implement slight references here and there, and if not references, just throwbacks to it, because I am a type of person that loves a character who has a transformation because of Dragon Ball Z. So my Mighty Warrior comic, my main character Reiko, he is a character that is from a planet where a lot of people are given predetermined abilities as a child, and he was given dark energy, like dark power. He was basically born evil, but has like a whole character development thing, but I'm not going to get into all that. And he has his dark form, which is, because he is a character who has a bang and a spiked hair going back. He transforms, boom, hair up, dark aura over him. It's just seething pure raw power, And yeah, that's because of Akira Toriyama. What he did made me want to do stuff like that. So cool. And yeah, I can go on all day and all day about how that led to this and how that inspired this, but at the end of the day, I just have to say that in the initial moment, I was more shocked, but then as the smoke clears, it just kind of sits in. And all day, I've just been kind of sitting on it, and it hurts the more I think about it. So this is kind of just me getting all this off my chest. If you watched this all the way through, thank you. If not, hey, it's all good, man. I guess this is kind of a more for me type of thing, but maybe what I say other people will agree with. So with that being the case, I just want to say thank you to Akira Toriyama. I pray that his family and loved ones get through this grieving period okay. He will live on forever, because you can throw the word legendary around like it's nothing pertaining to anyone, but Akira Toriyama, what he inspired, what he did with the game Dragon Quest. I first played Dragon Quest on the Super Nintendo. You could see some of the artwork literally is he did that even back then. And Chrono Trigger being a game that I wish I still had, but I don't. I could probably emulate it, I know that. I will definitely play that game again one day, but Chrono Trigger, I mean the red-haired character Chrono, his hair is literally, he's literally just Cell Saga Gohan, but it's red, But I love it. We've lost quite a few mangaka over the years. The creator of Yu-Gi-Oh, the creator of Berserk, they've passed away, and a lot of this was inspired by that. Like Berserk inspired the Buster Sword. Berserk inspired a lot of Dark Souls stuff. So without these great mindsets of great creators, we wouldn't get a lot of other amazing things. And this is pertaining to anyone, because of Dragon Ball, I got into Naruto, and Naruto was easily a top 10 for me. And if I ever gave off my top 10 favorite anime, I would easily put Dragon Ball Z within a top 5. But at the end of the day, I could watch 10 anime that are better than anything I've ever seen. But Dragon Ball Z will always be in a level of its own that it's not even fair to put it in other things from me personally. I know some people be like dick riding, glazing, yada yada. I don't care, man. Dragon Ball Z pushed me forward in a lot of things. It made me happy in a lot of times. Terrible days where I'm just not feeling it. Play Dragon Ball Z game and I'm good. Have a bad night or bad day. Watch Toonami. Watching the same 4 seasons over and over again of Dragon Ball Z. I would like to just say a few of like my favorite parts of the anime. First of all, my first time ever seeing Super Saiyan 2 Gohan. Like I said, I saw that because I started watching Dragon Ball Z in the beginning to the middle of the Cell Saga when that happened. And that was awesome. And another favorite of mine, the Frieza Saga. That whole fight with Frieza was awesome. And I can rewatch the whole Frieza versus Goku fight anytime, and it will still have the same effect on me. To this day, seeing him go Super Saiyan for the first time and slap the shit out of Frieza, it's awesome to me. And then, as it went back into the Cell Saga, we see Trunks for the first time. And, you know, originally Trunks became my favorite when I first saw him, until I got to see more of Gohan. But when Trunks first showed up, this man fought a version of Frieza that everyone was saying his power is stronger. And they were like, but there's someone with an even stronger power level. Who could it be? And his dad was there. And Trunks shows up. And not only does he make quick work of both of them, he does it in the most iconic and swaggiest way ever. He filleted Frieza. Blew him up. Boom. Didn't break a sweat. Then his dad shows up. Tries to hold him. You're nothing without this sword. Took his sword. And what Trunks do? Pew! Blasted him in the stomach. Blew him up. Blew up their ship. That's it for them. Until 20 years later. But that was that. And that was so awesome, man. I loved Trunks when he first showed up. I loved post-training in the hyperbolic time chamber Trunks. When he had the long hair and the ponytail. Loved it. And then after later on watching the history of Trunks, and then revisiting the TV show and seeing him come back, going back to his past, back to his timeline after they defeated Cell and whatnot, and him making quick work of them same androids that did it in Gohan. Oh man, Trunks is easily one of the best characters, man. I don't know what they did to him these days, but back then, that was my guy, bro. I love it. Since Tekken 7, I would always make my Leo look like Trunks, by the way. I did that. That's just my dude. But, yeah. Not having cable anymore, then them putting Dragon Ball Kai on like channel 11, 10 and 10:30, you get 2 episodes, you know? Watching that, it all in all, it was just something that always made me happy. And like I said, thank you, Akira Toriyama. May you rest in peace. And thank you to anyone who watched this video. I know it's not super long, but It might be for some people, I don't know, but regardless, um, may you guys continue to push on, you know. Um, May the legacy of Dragon Ball, Dragon Quest, anything inspired by it, that new game that's coming out that has Akira Toriyama's art style with the racing in like the desert lands and whatnot. Um, you know, I'm still kind of curious on that. Sparking Zero is gonna come out, whether it be this year or next, and I'm playing Sparking Zero was probably going to give me the same feeling I had when I was a kid playing Tenkaichi, you know, and I will enjoy that. With that being said, I love all of you if you have watched this far, and yeah, bye bye. Thank you, Akira Toriyama.